Hello, everybody, and welcome into Tunnel Vision, a show presented to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Jack Smith, joined in studio by Ryan Abraham, and a special virtual guest with us after USC's 28-20 win over Nebraska. Sophomore left tackle Elijah Paige joins us on Tunnel Vision. Elijah, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And this is all made possible by House of Victory, giving us a chance to talk to Elijah after the win. And so I guess, Elijah, the first question, what's your involvement with House of Victory been like?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been everything I could ask for. Getting out in the community, whether that be with the Boys and Girls Club. We went to the homeless shelter a few times. Just kind of anything I can do there. It's been amazing.
Elijah, with this whole new world of NIL, it's how much has that kind of changed the college lifestyle for you? I know you're only been there a little bit, but this is it's kind of new world for the fans. But how has it kind of changed your life as being a student athlete at USC and playing on a big stage, but also getting an opportunity to kind of give back and be compensated in the same time?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Obviously, kind of since I've been here, that's how it's been. So that's kind of all I know. But just talking to guys from the past, like Justin Dedich last year, Jarrett Kingston, all those guys, like talking about how it was when we didn't have NIL. They say it's so much different, and I mean it's awesome. It's a great opportunity to, make money off of your name, image, and likeness, and give back, and make sure your family can come to the games. And it's been amazing. It's truly a blessing. So.
And obviously, you guys had another opportunity to be in the Coliseum again yesterday night. It's obviously been not the season that you guys were hoping for, but a chance to go out and win 2 of the final 3 games to make a bowl game. And you do get that win, and it was a close win, which those haven't come easy this season. What was your overall reaction to the way that you guys played against Nebraska and holding on late to get that 1-score win?
Yeah, I think it was an awesome game. It obviously came down to the wire. I think that we prepared really well this week, obviously with a new quarterback in. It's obviously going to be different, but I think that Coach Riley had us ready to go, and obviously that showed Saturday. So,
yeah, we're going to talk about the new quarterback and what it meant for the offense and all that in a bit. But I wanted to talk about I do my 3 keys to victory every time, and USC has a fourth quarter lead in every game. Obviously, it hasn't always worked out the way that you guys were looking for, but that 7:39 drive, 7-minute 39-second drive. I think it was 14 plays, like 84 yards to score a touchdown, take the lead, converting on a 4th down. That was one you guys needed. Like, hey, this 4th quarter, we're up a point. Let's get some separation. What was like the mindset going into that drive and the execution as you guys marched down the field and were able to punch in that what ended up being the game-winning score?
Yeah, obviously it's an O-lineman's dream to just be able to run the ball over and over and over again. So that was super nice for us. But kind of just the mentality in there was obviously Coach Riley was obviously trying to take some time off the clock, which we did, and kind of just going down there and finishing. I know that's kind of been something we struggled with this season, and kind of just finishing. That was kind of the key, and that's what we were all telling each other, that we need to finish. And yeah.
There were points at different times this season where you guys have been unable to separate in a game, a chance to take a 2-score lead and there'd be some kind of mistake. And there was a little bit of that in the game, yesterday with the fumble, with the blocked field goal, but you guys were able to rally back. What do you think it says about the resilience of the group that you took that previous, season experiences and learned from them and were able to separate eventually yesterday?
Yeah, I think exactly that. Just the fact that we've proven that we've learned from that. All those times that we didn't do that, we've learned from it, and we've learned how to separate and how to finish games. So I think that was just a good chance to put that on display and prove to not only everyone else, but prove to ourselves that we can do it, which we know we can. But putting it on display just it makes it known that we can do that. So
9 games in, obviously it wasn't going the way you wanted, and Lincoln Riley decides to make the decision to switch quarterbacks. I know Miller Moss was a popular figure in the locker room. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are blaming him for everything that was going wrong, but you have to make some kind of change when things aren't going correctly, and they give Jayden Maiava an opportunity to come in there. What was it like preparing that week or the week and a half or whatever it was, getting ready for this game and, leading up to kickoff with a different quarterback kind of running the show?
Yeah. Honestly, for me and probably all the other O-linemen, it was kind of the same. I mean, you're blocking, you're either run blocking, you're pass blocking, you're pulling. But it was instilling confidence into Jayden, telling him, making sure that he knows that we've got his back. And yeah, it wasn't much different, but having a new guy back there, we were just making sure that he knew that we were super confident in him and we knew he could do it. So.
When you look back at the game, I'm sure you guys have gone back and watched the film. What did you see as some of the standout things that he did in the Coliseum? Obviously through the early pick six, but responded well, 4 total touchdowns, including helping you guys lead that game-winning drive.
Yeah, I think that he showed off his arm talent a lot. He wasn't afraid to throw the deep ball. He had that one to deuce, which was super awesome. And I think that something that he did really well was not letting the early mistakes define him. I mean, he had the pick six kind of to start the game. And, I mean, a lot of guys kind of could have thrown in the towel, and that kind of defined them, and it could have been a bad game just based off of that. But he didn't let that happen. And then there was another turnover, and he came right back, and he scored, and we scored. And I think that he did a great job just keeping confidence. Yeah.
When Caleb Williams came on board, we would talk to some of the offensive linemen. I think even back in the Sam Darnold days, talking about the offensive linemen, when you have a quarterback that's kind of like running around, you're not really sure what he's going to do. What sort of challenges that create for an offensive lineman? Did it feel a little different knowing that Jayden's back there maybe running around? You're like, oh, I maybe wasn't expecting that. I don't know if it changed anything from what you do preparation-wise or what you saw in the game.
Yeah, there was definitely a couple times. I think there was 2 or 3 times where I'm kind of wondering. Usually you know where your guy is at behind you. But there was a couple times where I was wondering where he was. I'm trying to read off the defensive end, kind of where he's going is kind of where the quarterback is, but he's trying to jump all around me. So I know that Jayden's trying to make something happen back there. So just trying my best to block as well as I can for that. And preparation-wise, it's not much of a different preparation. I mean, you go out there and block the guy the best you can and, make it happen.
I think Kyle Ford told us this week that Jayden's a little bit more reserved, that sometimes in practice you guys want him to get a little bit more hyped and he doesn't really do it, but that Kyle expected that to come from Jayden. You were on the sidelines and you got to just celebrate with him after the scores. Did he let loose a little bit and celebrate like he maybe wouldn't in practice with you guys?
Yeah, he definitely did. I think Kyle's 100% right about that. He's a little more reserved, and that's okay. But I think on the sideline he did a really good job of being vocal. In the huddle, he's vocal. Communication-wise, he's always vocal with that. But he did a really good job of that this Saturday. So
enough of this quarterback stuff. Come on, what are we talking? Woody Marks goes over 1,000 yards. He was our last guest from House of Victory. He's been on a couple of times. Just I saw his mom pregame, stopped by our buddy Paul's tailgate. My family was in town. I brought him over there and stuff. And just great dude. Great to see his success over 1,000 yards. I know you guys must be excited to see a running back do that. USC hasn't had one since 2017. But what did it mean to you guys on the offensive line that Woody gets over 1,000 yards?
Yeah, it means a ton. That's what we put all the work in for, all the practices, all the off-season workouts. We put it in so those guys can have accolades like that. So when you get an accolade like that, you said it hasn't happened since 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's special. We definitely are very happy for that, and we're very happy for Woody because it couldn't happen to a better guy, a more humble guy. So, yeah.
It seems like at different points this year, maybe the unit's biggest strength was run blocking. Did you feel like that's kind of where you guys got a lot of confidence from as the season went on?
Yeah, I think, I'd agree that that's kind of where our strength is, and that's where it's been this season. And, I think that we've gelled a lot over the season, and,
And it seems like, at least as of late, I know you personally haven't allowed a sack in 6 straight games. You look up at the season-long numbers, and as an offensive line, you guys have only allowed 11 sacks in total. Do you feel like maybe some of the struggles that there were in pass protection got cleaned up a bit because of the way that you guys were able to run block over that middle part of the season?
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. I think that when you can run the ball like that, it helps you a lot in the pass game too, obviously. But I also think that that comes a lot from Coach Henson and how he's stayed on us and he's developed us even over the season. I think that us gelling as an O-line is also huge. I know that this is our first time all playing together. I know that different guys on the line have played at different spots, Jonah and Murph and E-Man, but this is the first time this line has been together. So I think that just gelling over the season, that's where the progression in pass protection that's where it's been made. So.
Nebraska got a really good defensive front. They're really strong, stopping the run. I don't know if you got a chance, if you've had personal grades for the game as far as how you grade out, but just it's hard for us to watch offensive linemen and say, oh, he did good or not. But it seemed like you had a really good game. I don't know if this was one of your better ones or what you thought or how you graded out compared to some of the other games.
Thank you. Yeah. We haven't really done grades or anything yet. We usually watch film on Monday afternoon together as a unit. But I think that personally, there's a lot of things to clean up. But I think that I've grown a little bit in every game, and I think that this game has shown. This past game has showed a lot of growth. So very, very pleased, but a ton of work to do and a ton of things to clean up. So.
I think one of my favorite personal stories on the team is the way that you battled back after you were put on the scout team last year and then earned that start in the Holiday Bowl. So I guess what I'm wondering is this season after the Michigan game, which it felt like as a collective unit was the game you guys struggled in most, what did you learn the most from that game that you've applied throughout the rest of the season as you've got more starts under your belt?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing I learned from the Michigan game was you can't get too high and you can't get too low. Can never get too high after a really good game. You can't think that you're the best thing ever, and that's never going to work. And when you have a game like I had against Michigan, you can't get too down on yourself. Like, yeah, there's a ton of things that I need to clean up. There's a million things that went wrong, but you can't get too low because yeah. And so I think that's the I learned a ton of things from that game in specific, but that's the biggest thing that I learned overall. So.
Our colleague Chris Trevino wanted to know if you felt things have kind of slowed down for you the last several games. You know, like early on, maybe there was a little kind of a blitz of just starting and doing all that. Have you felt like as the season wore on, things have kind of slowed down for you and being able to kind of, be able to perform at a higher level? Just everything's kind of making more sense for you.
Yeah, it definitely has. I can feel it every game. Everything's kind of slowing down. I'm learning the game more. Being able to read defenses better and obviously know what we're doing on offense better and what we're trying to get done. So, yeah, it's slowed down a ton. I think even since week one. Obviously, since Michigan, it has. But even since week one, it's slowed down a ton.
You mentioned Josh Henson. I'm wondering how he has helped your development this season and helping the offensive line gel. Is it something that he can go out and make sure that you guys all five gel together, or is it something that really only time can do?
Yeah, I think that he's been a big part of that, just instilling confidence in us, even after tough performances, in specific the one against Michigan, just kind of making sure that our confidence is there. And I think that he's done a great job of that. And on the practice field, obviously, all the stuff that he does has helped us a ton. But I also think that over time, you just gel with the guys that you play next to. I'm getting used to, obviously, and I've gotten used to playing next to E-Man. And, yeah.
Our colleague Shotgun Spratling texted me a question he wanted to ask you about playing on the road versus playing at home for an offensive tackle. Obviously, there's crowd noise. You guys haven't had the kind of success on the road I know you would have liked to have. But how different is it for an offensive tackle playing at home versus playing on the road?
There's definitely a difference. I think that you said it, the biggest thing is the crowd noise. I mean, if you have to go silent cadence at certain stadiums like that changes. It kind of changes a lot. You kind of have to keep your eye on the ball, depending on how you guys do it, and depending on if it's the center signaling or the guard or whatever it is. You're not able to just lock in on whoever you're blocking, whether that be the DN, a linebacker. So it does change a lot. But I think that, again, with experience and playing on the road more and more, you get more and more used to it, and you can kind of take the crowd noise out of it. It's always going to be there, but you can do things to minimize it. So
you get a chance now over these next two games with the rivalry games lined up. You're set to get your first chance to play in those rivalry games against UCLA and Notre Dame since you didn't get a chance last year. Is there something specific you're looking forward to? Are you just amped up to play in these two big rivalry games?
Yeah, I'm super amped up. It's an honor to be able to play in these rivalry games. All the guys that came before me and have done the things that I'm doing right now, legends. They played in this game, and it means the world to them. So it means the world to me too. So I'm so excited for these next two games.
We've heard, from you guys this last week that making a bowl game, is important. You took that first step, beating Nebraska. So if you win one of the next two, obviously you'd like to win them both. But if you win one, you'll be bowl eligible. Like where does that rank as far as making a bowl game versus wanting to beat the crosstown rival UCLA or beat the national rival Notre Dame? I don't know how that all, in your mind, like how that all plays out together.
Yeah, I think that they're both very important. I think that a lot of guys in the locker room, we take this UCLA and Notre Dame game, we take it very serious for obvious reasons. But I think that just taking it one game at a time. I know the bowl game is ahead of us and making a bowl game, but I think that just taking it one game at a time is the approach that Coach Riley has kind of instilled in us, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. So.
You might be a case study in how valuable bowl practices can be because you got a chance to prep during that bowl prep and then get your first start in a bowl game. If you guys weren't bowl eligible last year, you probably wouldn't have started a game, a season ago. So how valuable were those practices to you? And do you remember a moment where it clicked and you started to feel yourself turn a corner during those extended practices that you guys got?
Yeah, those are super valuable. I'm so blessed that happened. I think that the time kind of when I started to figure it out was I was on the scout team kind of that whole regular season up until the end. And just bowl practice, I mean, maybe one was when I got to kind of go out in front of Coach Henson and Coach Riley and be with the offense again and go against the ones and the twos. And I think that's where I started to show the growth that I had from playing scout. So I think that was maybe bowl practice 1 or 2 was that moment. So
when you were strapping up your cleats and getting ready to go out for bowl practice 1, was it going through your mind like, hey, I want to go show everybody else what I've learned when working on the scout team. I want to go out and show them that I'm a different player than the one that, got sent down to the scout team a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, that was definitely on my mind. I just wanted to prove that what they did was for a reason. I know that they sent me down there so I could kind of get beat up a little and kind of toughen up a little, and I wanted to show that what they did worked. So yeah, definitely meant a lot.
So coming up this weekend, it's Saturday night. It's funny. I got home from the game and it was like 6:30. I'm like, man, kickoff next week's not even going to start until 7:30. This is crazy. Yeah. I'm getting too old for this, Elijah. I don't know, but it's a late game. You guys haven't won a road game yet, which is just baffling. Leading in the fourth quarter and all that. I know this is not, really a road game. You're taking a bus instead of a plane, but what would this mean to get that first road win in the Big Ten? Like, it just hasn't happened yet. What would it mean for you guys to get that victory?
Yeah, it would mean the world. We're fighting every day. We're practicing hard. We're studying hard to get that win. It really means the world to us, especially against an opponent like the one we're going against. So.
What can you guys take as an offensive line from the performance against Nebraska that you feel like you improved or things that you guys did well? What can you take from that game into this UCLA game?
I kind of think just the confidence. Once you have a good game, like as a unit, and you guys feel like you guys did well as a unit, even with the things that we need to clean up, I think that you can just carry all those things into the next week. Just that confidence of just knowing that you can run the ball or knowing that you can protect well or. Yeah, so
it's funny. Confidence is a big part of anything you're doing. But was there a moment in the Nebraska game? Because the first couple drives, I think you get a first down on the first drive, and then end up have the punt, the pick six on the second drive. It was Jayden's first time. He was 2 of his first 7 with the pick six. But after that, seemed to settle down a lot. There were some shaky moments, but it seemed like the whole team seemed a lot more confident. I don't know. Did it take a little while to sort of build that confidence in the game, and did you feel it like after that point once you guys scored, okay, we're confident now and you can kind of keep it going through the rest of the game?
Yeah, I feel like we kind of felt like that the entire time. I think we kind of went out there with the confidence that we needed. Sometimes in the game though, it just takes a couple drives and not getting down on yourself or down on the guys around you based off of 1 or 2 drives. So I think the confidence was there the entire time, but I think we just needed to settle in a little bit, and yeah, that's what we did. So it was awesome.
I feel like it would be easy to be confident in these throwback uniforms. We got some good pictures of right here, Quentin in the throwback jerseys. What was your reaction when you found out you guys would get to wear the cool threads, and how did you enjoy it yesterday?
Yeah, I actually found out from Instagram. I didn't really I didn't know that we were doing that. I'm not huge into all that, and I don't know if any of the guys on the team knew besides the ones who obviously did the photo shoot. But it was super cool. Obviously, a little switch up for homecoming. It was awesome. I don't know when's the last time SC switched up the uniforms, but it was super cool, and we played well in them. So hopefully we wear them in the future.
It's funny. It's been a while, but when I was in school, like that's what the uniforms were. And so it looked kind of funny, especially any of the guys that were wearing like sweatshirts or something that you could see under. Like it, for whatever reason, it just reminded me of being back in school. Like it's sort of what all the dudes looked like. I mean, guys had neck rolls and stuff back then.
They were a little baggier when you were in school.
I think so. Yeah, there wasn't some of that. And there was a lot of half shirts. There was a lot like the dudes would wear like the half shirts and stuff.
Yeah,
but that kind of reminded me of that. But a lot of the fans really loved it, and they loved the end zones with the diamonds and just the gold SC at midfield. I don't know if you cared about any of that stuff or how did it look for you guys.
I thought it was super cool. I thought that everything they did with the end zone was super cool. I found out that they were doing it when we walked out for warm-ups or when we walked out for the Trojan walk originally. I thought it was super cool. So, yeah.
The defense has been a big story over your 2 years here, and they were, crucial to you guys getting the win yesterday. You get to stand on the sidelines. I'm sure you guys are going back over the previous drives, but do you ever get a moment to look out and see the improvements that the defense has made?
Yeah, I do. After we're making adjustments, I'm watching the jumbotron. I'm watching the field. I'm watching those guys. It's been awesome, the improvements they made. It's been awesome to see young guys like Cam Fountain. Not so young, but Sam Green, like everyone, Devin Tompkins, like all those guys that I see in practice going hard every day, maybe have not gotten their shot yet, but seeing them get their shot right now and making the most of it, it's been awesome to watch.
It felt like that drive we talked about where you guys go up 28-20. I mean, I know there's been shaky moments at the end of games, but I felt pretty like, all right, USC is going to win this game. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but once Greedy Vance makes that pick at the end, like was there were you just, relief or what was the feeling on the sidelines when that basically ended the game there?
Yeah, total confidence that whole drive. I was standing up watching and rooting for those guys. I had complete confidence the entire time that they were going to get it done and Coach Lynn was going to scheme it up right and they were going to make it happen. But definitely that last throw where he threw it up, kind of your heart kind of drops into your stomach. And I had full confidence in the guys though. And as soon as I seen Greedy get up with the ball, it was awesome. You just saw everyone on the sideline just go nuts, and then he handed the ball to Miss Jen Cohen, and awesome.
You get to go up against a lot of those guys on the defensive line. You shouted out Sam and Devin and Cam. Is there someone that's got your number, or maybe you've got their number, and you want to talk a little bit of trash or hype up your teammates along that defensive line?
Nah, we go back and forth every day. We definitely I love that group. I love those guys. Just going back and forth with those guys every day. I line up against Sam probably every single day of practice and Braylon, and it's just awesome going against those guys, and they get me better, and I'm hoping that I'm getting them better. So,
well, we really appreciate you coming in, Elijah. I don't know if you had anything else, but I thought it was great to catch up with you after the game, and wishing you all the best in these last two and potentially third, bowl game and stuff. But thanks again for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate you.
Of course. All right, Elijah. We'll see you this week, and good luck against UCLA.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Elijah. That was great stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thanks again to House of Victory for setting it up. I can't put the QR code up again. I can right here. It'll cover me, but it's okay. This is the QR code for House of Victory. So, again, thank you guys so much for getting that set up, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without House of Victory.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
All right. Well, Ryan, big win for USC. I know we didn't mention it at the top of the show, but if you guys are here live on Tunnel Vision, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, we thank you guys so much for joining us, and we can put your comments and questions on screen as always. But Connor and I mentioned it on Instant Analysis yesterday. It wasn't the prettiest game, but at this point in the season, Ryan, USC just needed a win, no matter what way it came, and it came down to a one-score game again, even though it was 8 points. And neither of these two teams, USC or Nebraska, has been all that good in one-score games. So at the end, you felt like you just never knew what was going to happen, but it was USC that ended up on the winning end. And I think a huge win for USC and the way that this season and the program's going to move, because a loss would have been detrimental.
Yeah, there's been a lot of detrimental losses, devastating losses throughout the season. It was just one of those ones that you needed a big one. This was a Nebraska team that started out 5-1, and they hadn't made a bowl game. They have the longest FBS streak, or Power 5 streak, Power 4 streak of not making a bowl game. And to go 5-1, and now you've lost 4 in a row. It's tough. And USC had lost 4 of 5. Both teams were struggling. Both teams were desperate. And so I don't want USC fans to be like, oh, they were terrible. Look, you needed a win, and it's a name brand win. Nebraska's still the blue bloody program, and they gave Nebraska. I mean, they gave Ohio State all they could handle, and probably should have won that game in the horseshoe. Similar, USC probably should have beat Penn State. Probably should have beat Nebraska. There's these close should-have, would-have, could-haves for both Nebraska and USC, and you just wanted to be the team on the right side of this one, not like, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and now you're like 4-6. No, I mean, it's a big deal to go 5-5, and at least you have an opportunity to go in and sweep your rivals and go 7-5, have a winning record, and maybe go to a bowl game again. It's not what you wanted at the beginning of the season, the way the schedule's set up, but it's like, you're right, Jack. This was a really important win, and it's a big win. Just, to have a new quarterback who might be your quarterback of the future. I mean, we don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? We can talk about quarterback stuff in a little bit too, but just to get that victory, it meant a lot. I think, and you could just talking to Elijah, there's a lot of really good kids on this team, and they need a little something because it's hard to keep your head in the game week in, week out if you keep losing. So just for the morale of the team, for the fans going into the, people get excited for the rivalry game. It was a big one. So I don't want people to sort of poo-poo it and be like, oh, Nebraska stinks. They kind of stink, but whatever. USC kind of stinks. Like, you needed to get this win and play better. And we talked about USC being a really unlucky team. Nebraska's a pretty unlucky team too. So you'd rather be on the right side. You want that coin flip to go your way. And on Saturday, it went USC's way.
Yeah, the two teams were 2-8 in one-score games this year coming in. So you figured, okay, it's probably going to be a one-score game, and someone's going to, finally get lucky and beat the team in a one-score game, and the other team's going to be even more disappointed because it came against a team that, like them, had struggled. And as I said on Instant yesterday, it felt like the Demons for Nebraska outlasted USC's. And I think you put it well. Blue bloody is the way I would describe Nebraska right now. I mean, so much history, but it's really been a struggle in recent years for Nebraska, and back-to-back years under Matt Rule, getting to the 5-win mark, but just hanging right on the edge of that sixth win that has eluded them since 2016, longest Power 4 drought for a bowl game. I think last year they lost 4 straight to end the season. This year they've lost 4 straight right now, and they've got to beat either Wisconsin or Iowa to go to a bowl. So, it's a Nebraska team coming in with a first-game offensive coordinator, all the issues, the skeletons in the closet that Matt Rule and Nebraska brought in. I didn't think USC played perfectly, but you're right. Their ability to just grit out a win, which we have not seen from them outside of the LSU game this season, I thought was a step in the right direction. And with Jayden Maiava under center, with some of the changes that USC had made, I didn't think they'd be able to flip everything in 2 weeks, but I did think they made enough changes and enough moves and momentum to be able to end up on the winning side of a game like that.
Yeah, and we didn't know because both teams have a bye, and it's a bunch of college kids. Jack, you're one of them. It's like a lot can change in 2 weeks. And when you change your quarterback, that's one big one. Nebraska changes offensive coordinators to a guy that wasn't even in the building the last time they played a game. And, Dylan Raiola, the freshman quarterback, a lot of talent, and he's just, struggled at times. David Wood's my partner for the Podcast of Champions, went to Nebraska to see UCLA win there, and he said in person he just looked like a deer in headlights a lot of times. And you saw a little bit of that, but I think there was some confidence back. I think they simplified the game plan, but he still looked like a freshman quarterback. But I feel for USC, on the USC side, I know there were some fans that were really getting down on Lincoln Riley, and obviously losing 5 games, that's not good enough. But even his ability to be an offensive coordinator, I like the way he called the game in this one. And even since like that Michigan game where you're trying to scheme things up to help the offensive line, I thought they've done a pretty good job. Now, there's been certain times they should have run the ball more against Washington. But I think in this game, they tried, they threw a ball a lot, and this was a good run defense that you're facing. So I didn't mind you come out throwing a little bit, threw it down the field, and maybe that was sort of like, hey, we're setting this up. We are going to let this guy heave the ball down the field, which he did. They didn't complete any of those passes early on. That the pick six was bad. But I think at that point, it opened up some of the run game things. They did some jet sweeps. They, being able to run that option on 4th and 1, that was a really cool looking play. But they got the run game going. They tried some different things. And I felt like, they scheme-wise, that Lincoln Riley did a nice job and put Jayden Maiava in, advantageous positions. I don't think he was sitting back there making 4 reads or anything, but it was sort of like, here's what the play is going to be set up for. If it's open, you're going to throw it to that guy and just go with it. It seemed like that worked pretty well. Yeah, sometimes the play wasn't there. But for the most part, and there were certainly some lucky plays that happened. I know you guys talked about it on instant analysis too. We were in the press box like, he didn't mean to throw that to Mekhi Lemon, but it went there. But I felt like schematically they did a pretty nice job of sort of scheming things up. And the fact that the run game was that effective, because this is a really good, look at what Ohio State did with Junkins and other dude, I forget his name, but they have
Henderson.
two stud running backs, and they both were like 2.4 yards a carry or something. So Woody Marks going for 146, whatever it was, I think 36 yards, or catching the ball out of the backfield. Yep. It was really effective. So I like the game plan for the new quarterback, and it seemed to do well. And the fact that you went into the teeth of the Nebraska defense that stops the run, and you ran effectively for a lot, 3/4 of the game, I thought that was really important.
Yeah, I thought it was the most balanced that the offense has looked this season. And maybe that's because there's a quarterback that is more of a threat with his legs, but 35 passes to 32 runs, that's the even split that USC fans have kind of been calling for all year, not 50 passes against Washington and not running the ball enough.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think the fact that they took those downfield shots, maybe even if they weren't successful early, that set them up to run the ball a little bit better. And then when they started to run the ball, it opens up the play-action pass to Deuce Robinson for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I thought that there were, for the most part, that's how the USC's offense is supposed to look. Like, that's kind of more of what we were expecting after the first 2 years under Lincoln Riley. And, the couple of the times that it didn't work, you probably put it on Jayden Maiava with the pick six or with the fumble deep in his own territory. I did think Lincoln Riley wasn't doing a very good job calling plays for Maiava early on in the game. Those first 2 drives, he was just kind of a statue in the pocket, never really got him moving, never moved the pocket, never got him on the run, which I think is not leaning into the strength of your quarterback. But I did think that eventually there was maybe a switch that flipped, and Lincoln Riley, I thought, called probably his best game of the year, certainly the best one since LSU.
Yeah, and I'm wondering early on too, because it did seem like there was some nerves there, and that when sometimes you take a deep shot just for the sake, like, hey, I can do this, and maybe that was part of it. But you're right, it just didn't seem like it was working, and the run game wasn't working. They tried to run it was like 2nd and 10. They tried to run, get stuffed, I think, with Woody Marks. And it just wasn't clicking sort of early on. But then, after that, maybe it was sort of like loosening things up. Okay, the butterflies are out. You got to get punched in the mouth once or twice, and then, okay, now we're ready to go. And it seemed like it worked better. So I don't know if he was just trying to set it up to just get him ready, and then you get the play call going or whatever, or something. He figured something out like, hey, we need to change this. But it did work a lot better. And for the people, look, Lincoln Riley deserves a lot of criticism. Like, they should not be 5 losses under this team's name this year. But I thought he called a good game for him and try to make – you want to make your quarterback successful. And I thought they did a pretty good job of it. Now, the ball was in harm's way a few times.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, how sustainable is what Jayden Maiava did? It looked a little – Sam Darnold, Keaton Slovis, Matt Fink game where it's you're just hucking it up. Yeah.
There were some, but I think some of it too is you put yourself, you're sort of forcing the action. Like, if you're a poker player, it's a lot better to be the aggressor. Like, if I'm raising you and I don't have the best hand, at least I have the initiative, and having the initiative, being the aggressor, there's value in that. And I feel like with Jayden Maiava, like, there was aggression going on. Like, they were making, not every throw was the best or the decision was the best, but you're forcing defenses to, like, oh crap, like, they're doing this. And maybe you pick off 3 balls, but maybe you throw 3 touchdowns and run for another one too. So I think he's someone back there making stuff happen. Like, the gunslinger thing, every bad decision when you're the gunslinger doesn't hurt you, but some do. But just being the aggressor, I think there's something to be said for that. So I didn't have a big issue with it, but you're right. Like, a few things go, balls bounce the other way, and it's like, ooh, that was bad. But I think there was, some other opportunities too for him there. But I like the aggression, and I think trying to force things, and you're forcing the defense to adjust to you, and I think that's Maiava back there. You do that a little bit. I think. If Miller Moss started that game, USC probably wins also, maybe a little bit differently. I'm curious to see if there's a game left on the schedule, or if we go back and look, you watch him the last 2 games ago. If he started this game, I know a lot of USC fans are like, if he started this game, they'd be undefeated. I'm like, I don't think that's the case. But I'm curious to see I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I think they probably win the game against Washington, just because they, being at the goal line practically twice late in the game and coming up with 0 points on back-to-back red zone positions. I feel like the threat of his legs, at the very least, they score 3 points, or they score, maybe they score both times they're in the red zone. But I think, Miller Moss did do a good job to dig them out of the hole. He also did a lot to put them in the hole. And I think, when you're talking about the gunslinger thing, I mentioned this on Instagram. If you tell me that both quarterbacks are going to turn the ball over twice, well, I'd rather have Jayden Maiava in the game, because on the plays he's not turning it over, he's probably making more wow plays. He's probably making, better throws. He's probably being more of a threat with his legs. He's probably influencing the defense more often than Miller Moss would be. It got to a point where Moss was turning the ball over maybe as many times as Lincoln Riley expected Jayden Maiava to. So at that point, you go with the guy that's more physically talented and probably threatens the defense in more ways. I thought the times where the ball was in harm's way yesterday, too, they were good throws, at least, and we've seen Miller Moss put the ball in harm's way where it's either, right to a sinking linebacker or just an overthrow or an underthrow. Jayden Maiava's first pick was really, really bad, but the one that he just put it in the air was one-on-one coverage for Deuce Robinson. He's 6'6". He's probably going to win that battle more often than not. Sometimes he put it up in the left corner for Kyron Hudson. Kyron Hudson's probably going to win that battle more times than not. So while the ball was in harm's way, I thought he picked his moments and made good throws when he did. Because when it's in one-on-one man coverage, I think if you're at USC, you trust your receivers. Some of the ones that Miller Moss would throw were either overthrows, underthrows, or into zone coverage where the receiver doesn't even have too much of a chance.
Yeah, it's funny. The Kyron Hudson crazy catch show continued with the hit off your chest, bounce around.
It should have been the easiest catch of his life, but I'm sure that the hands were blocking his eyes, and it turned into a phenomenal catch.
Yeah, so he's always an adventure with that, But there's you're going to make SportsCenter more often than not. And then for Deuce Robinson, I thought he played maybe his best game with I think sometimes he's just not using that 6'6" frame as a he's not playing like the big receiver that he is, and I thought he did more of that.
Yeah.
And the one catch on the run, and then seeing Zachariah Branch. It's funny. Jayden Maiava's very first touchdown pass as a Trojan goes to Zachariah Branch, his first touchdown catch of the season
since week 2 of last year.
It's insane.
Which is,
that's crazy. So I think that helped because we weren't sure, because we know Miller Moss was very popular in the locker room, and there were some tweets and stuff from players. You weren't sure, is this going to go over well? But seemed like it did. I mean, I think. Give Lincoln Riley credit. I think the team has been, as far as morale and everything, they seem to have been, still been pretty good, even with all the losses and stuff. And they came out and played pretty well. We haven't even talked about the defense yet. They played great. I thought they played great. But to see Deuce Robinson make some hands catches where there was contested, there was defenders in the area, he sort of goes up and bullies it a little bit to catch that one on the run. Like you mentioned, it was a play action pass, when the run game was going. I thought it worked pretty well. And you want to feel good going into these games. Notre Dame's killing people, and UCLA had a good run until they kind of fell on their face up at Washington. But I think they outplayed Washington watching that game Friday night. They just had some bad stuff happen. They have some pretty bad penalties that allows teams to move on. But you can't expect UCLA to keep making those kind of mistakes. But you want to have they've been playing much better football lately, so that's not going to be an easy game. So you want to feel good about the team and how you're playing going into these games. And I think USC defensive side for sure, and on the offensive side, all right, you got one game under your belt for Jayden Maiava. The offense looks pretty good, and let it roll when you go in the Rose Bowl on Saturday night.
Yeah, and last point on Deuce Robinson, it might be a chemistry thing. We saw times where Miller Moss would try and get it to Deuce in one-on-one coverage, and the throws would just be either a little bit underthrown or a little to the left, and it never felt like they were perfectly on the same page. I felt like I saw a little bit more chemistry out there, and maybe chemistry isn't something that actually exists, but the throws were where they needed to be, and maybe Maiava's just got a little bit more of a part in his brain that's like, hey, let me give my 6'6" receiver a chance. What's the worst that could happen that maybe Miller Moss doesn't? But I agree. I thought we saw the best of Deuce Robinson and saw maybe what he could be with a full season of those kind of targets coming his way, where quarterbacks trust him in his big frame. You mentioned the defense.
Yeah.
They only give up 6 points in the second half. They only give up 13 points all day because of the pick six that helped Nebraska. And one of the times they were inside field goal range when they had to go out onto the field. So you erase that. And in real drives, the defense only allowed 10 points. And twice in the second half, they get put on the field, they get taken into the red zone, and they stiffen up and only give up 3. I thought this was one of the most inspiring performances performances that we've seen from the defense all year.
Yeah, I think we've seen this USC team sort of. You have a team that's struggling, and they're the get right game, right? You help them, like, oh, they weren't able to run the ball. Oh, why can they run the ball now? They're running against you. In this case, this was a struggling offense, especially the last 3 games for Nebraska. You have to change offensive coordinators, and still you were able to come out and play well. Now, I think it helped a lot to get Jalen Smith and Kamari Ramsey back. Ramsey just seems to have a knack for making those open field tackles. It's like a 3rd and 4, and it's like a ball out in the flat. In years past, like, he makes the first guy miss, and it's a first down. Jalen Ramsey hits him, and it's like a 1-yard gain, and now it's 4th and 3. And that we just haven't seen guys at USC kind of do that. Like, those plays would just always seem to work and go for a first down. And Ramsey changed that, and then Smith is a great tackler and gets that interception in the game. I thought that was a big deal to get both of those guys back, having the bye week and extra time to get ready. I think that helped a lot. But you're really only giving up 10 points, to the, struggling Nebraska team. That's what you should have done. And that was one of my keys is don't give up more than 23 points. They're averaging 22 a game. The last 3 in their losses, they've only averaged a little over 14. And if you gave up 28 points in this game, I didn't think it was going to be good. So I thought they did what they needed to do. And I thought they played well. It's a much more fundamentally sound defense, and there's holes. There's they got after the pass rush. They got the pass rush going a little bit. 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions. So they added some of those big plays in the stats, but just in general, it's just so much more fundamentally sound. If they had some more dudes, I think it would help a lot. But just coaching wise, it just looks like, okay, this team is put in the right spot. They're doing the right things. If you just add some dudes to this group, it could be I think a really good defense.
Yeah, I think it's already the better side of the football, and it has been this year. I actually did think in the first half they did not tackle very well. It was maybe the one of the worst tackling performances we've seen in the first 30 minutes of the game. They came out after halftime, and it was very clear that was an emphasis at the half. And guys like Kamari Ramsey led the charge, but they were flying around. They didn't miss a tackle, really, it felt like, at all in the second half, and that was a big reason why Nebraska on 3rd down would come up 2 yards short instead of letting a guy push forward and get the first down like we may have seen in years past. It's why they're able to force field goals in the red zone, which they've done a great job of this year. I agree. I think D'Anton Lynn has done just about as much as he could this season switching this defense around. I don't think he has the dudes like you mentioned that he even had last year at UCLA along the front and with Kamari Ramsey, who he brought over from UCLA. But once this defense gets more talented, it can go from where it is right now, which is a top 50 unit in college football, to maybe even a better unit than that. And I think that you look at a game like this as evidence of what D'Anton Lynn can do with this talent. Imagine if he gets a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just getting those guys back, I think, helped because they're just on the edge. If you miss, your 2 of your best defensive players in the secondary, it's just going to make it tougher because you remember the Washington game a couple weeks ago. Those guys don't play. Washington's bad in the red zone. They move the ball. They have a hard time scoring. Well, they go 3 touchdowns out of 4 tries and a field goal in the red zone against USC, and you just can't let that happen. If you did that yesterday, you're probably going to lose the game. They played better in the red zone. They did a nice job overall, but I think just missing a couple of those key guys, I think it hurt them a lot in the Washington game. So just I'm not saying smoke and mirrors, but you are it's a there's Band-Aids all around this ship. You're just really trying to hold it together. It's like the Millennium Falcon over there. It's just Chewie's going down to fix the hyperdrive or whatever and just keep it. So it's D'Anton Lynn's job to just he's Han Solo. He's just keep this thing flying and get the hyperdrive going and jump into warp speed. So I think they've done a nice job on that side of the ball, but it would have been great, and Connor says this a lot, in the offseason if you had added some of those guys like defensive tackles and things that could have helped you more. But if they're healthy, I think they're set up pretty well for these last couple of games. The bye week, I think, came at a good time, sort of like a Zen moment. All right, we got to go out and win some games. You can't this losing 4 or 5 is not going to work anymore. Go get a win against Nebraska. Now you got rivalry games. Get fired up and try to take these teams down. UCLA is certainly beatable. I mean, everyone's beatable. It's college football. Everyone's beatable. Notre Dame's playing a much better brand of football than they were last year. I mean, they're killing everybody, I think, the last 6 games. So, but just go out and beat UCLA. UCLA's feeling a little good about themselves. They got 3 wins. They got road wins in the Big Ten. Went to Nebraska and won, beat Iowa at home. Then Washington kind of slapped them back down to reality. So now you got to keep them down. Don't let them get back up and get hot. Just go in there all right, you're still UCLA. We're going to beat you. You're not going to win that first ever Big Ten game between the LA schools against us. I mean, I think that means a lot. So go out there and get the win.
Yeah, and how many times over the last couple seasons has an opposing quarterback come in that we've said, this quarterback isn't very good, and they've looked like a Heisman guy against the USC defense? Happened a lot under Alex Grinch. Dylan Raiola, you would have understood, hey, this guy's so talented that if he has a big performance, you just chalk it up and say, that's what happens. It's a 5-star quarterback coming in. There wasn't a single thing that Dylan Raiola did yesterday that I was very impressed with. I thought they made him look not very good. You could have told me he was a 3-star freshman, and I probably would have believed it. And, of course, it's a tough gig for a quarterback in a first game under a new offensive coordinator with a struggling offense. They never really totally got the ground game going, but I was impressed with their ability to limit Dylan Raiola, limit everyone on the Nebraska offense, because I'm having a tough time thinking of one thing over the last 24 hours that I was really impressed with that Dylan Raiola did, and I think that's a testament to the prep that the USC defense did, to the drive that they had to go up and make tackles and get off the field. I thought this was, in total, maybe one of their best defensive performances this season.
Yeah, you want to make a freshman quarterback look like a freshman. What Bill Belichick, he always did that. Rookie quarterbacks, he just ate them for lunch, and you want to be able to do that. And I think Dan Holgerson comes in, and he was trying to simplify things. And, there were times it looked like they were reluctant to throw the ball in situations where it's like, oh, he could hurt us if he throws a pick here. But I think he did simplify things a little bit. And, and sometimes that gives you confidence. And, but, and you could have seen it like, oh, he only has a couple of reads. They've, cut down the playbook. He had a really good game. He was really efficient and all that. No, he didn't really do that. Now, he threw it like 37 times or something?
Well, yeah, and before the final drive, it was under 5 yards per attempt. So it was all at or around the line of scrimmage, nothing really hitting down the field. It was very vanilla, which I think you understand, but that's sometimes what happens when you simplify an offense. When you have a simple offense against a really exotic defense and a true freshman quarterback on the road, that's a recipe for you not to have success, and I think it's just a good sign that USC has a defense that can finally take advantage of something like that.
Yeah, you wanted to do that. Hey.
Yeah. You should have done that.
You should have done it.
And you did it.
And but to your point, many times USC's been in that position and didn't do it. I mean, Nebraska's pretty bad at special teams, and somehow USC gets a field goal block. So the stuff like that, you don't want to happen. I think Washington, the same thing. They were bad, and they outplayed USC on special teams. Washington was bad in the red zone. They get good against USC. So you don't want that stuff to happen. So it was sort of like holding serve. You should win your serve, and they won their serve against the freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it on Instant yesterday, but Nebraska's kind of evidence that things could get worse. They've been dealing with the kind of season that USC's had basically since 2016, and definitely over the last 2 years with Matt Rule. But I think also this is evidence for USC fans that things can get better. Jayden Maiava, I thought, played well enough for you to assume he'd be good enough to be the starting quarterback next year, and we'll see what happens over the next 2 games. But you have the throwback uniforms, and you have fun at home for homecoming, and a huge recruit flips his commitment the next day, and Hassan Longstreet, who's now committed to USC, and there might be more on the way with how many visitors USC had. So it's been a tough season that I think a week like this is just one that USC fans were kind of starving for.
Yeah, it couldn't have been worse sort of last week when you get Hayden Lowe, decommits, and you're like,
and you're on NCAA probation.
Yeah, the NCAA thing comes out. You're like, this is kind of bad. What's going on here? And so you need a little pick me up. You need a little something. You needed to get an interception to end the game and give the ball to the athletic director in the end zone and have a cool moment, and then get and just to see. I like as a player like Julian Lewis, I like him a lot, and but just I didn't like the way everything went, and I don't know who's to blame for it, but just to have a quarterback commit, but not someone that's on all the recruiting prospect text threads and telling everyone to go. It just wasn't. It didn't feel like he was going to be a USC Trojan all that time. And so to finally be able to pull the trigger and get, the Corona Centennial 5-star quarterback, Longstreet to come in and flip to USC. He's local. You don't need a kid from Georgia. Get the kid from Southern California. He's going to be helping you like these final 3 weeks, and the recruiting. There's a lot of upside there. I know Greg Biggins really feels like he's a better prospect than Juju Lewis is. So, that should make you feel good. I know some people were asking about that in the chat.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But
USC views it as an upgrade. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where you just needed a little something positive, and I think that's it was definitely needed, and you sort of sometimes you just need to cut bait and move on, and I felt like that's the way it was. I think it could have worked out, but it just never seemed to get there, and you're just always visiting somewhere else or looking at someone else, and that happens a lot with position guys, but not as much with quarterbacks. And when you're just not getting that, you're still dating, and you're not going steady, and you just needed someone to be going steady with. So I think it's probably better for both parties, but certainly for USC to get that commit this morning. It was funny, I was coming into the studio and it broke, I got to do the Harvey Hyde show, kind of talking about that a little bit. But you got to feel much better, and you need to finish this class strong. And so having a committed quarterback who will help you recruit, I think, is going to be a big part of that too.
Yeah, I think from your backyard is also a big deal, and especially for the future, where maybe future California recruits want to come and play with Hassan Longstreet. It's also quelling some of the talk about the fact USC is not recruiting from California. They pretty much turn around a commitment and flip a long-time Texas A&M commit in a couple of weeks. So when they put their mind to it, and you have a bye week and you've got a chance to go and talk to some of these recruits with Luke Ewer, the QB coach, going to Longstreet's game, you can, at least at USC, flip some of these California guys and get them to come to USC. And I think what Trojan fans want is a little bit more just commitment to going and doing that, because it's shown that even with a 5-star quarterback that's been locked into Texas A&M, things can change quickly when USC comes calling and gives you an offer and wants you to come play at a marquee position as one of those talented players. But there have been a lot of days this season where it hasn't been super fun to look at the board, and people on the peristyle are talking about negative things. This is a day, and this will probably be a week where it'll be a good time to check out the USCfootball.com message boards. There's so much recruiting information on there. If you want to talk about any of these things with fellow USC fans, that's the place to go. It was popping this morning after the Longstreet commitment, and to talk about Jayden Maiava and the retro uniforms. Certainly a good day to be a member at USCfootball.com.
And if you're not, we do have a promo code. It's a coupon code, whatever, but if you aren't a member, first of all, you should be. You're watching our show on Sunday night. Go over there, go sign up. You just need to register with your email address, and then you can use the code. It's Peristyle50 for 50% off an annual membership. So it ends up being $55 or something like that. But just, it's worth it. I mean, that's like lunch, and you get the whole year of going to USCfootball.com. If you care about this stuff, you want to know what's going on in recruiting, you want to know what's going on inside the program, just a war room every Friday. So many people reply to that thread. They look forward to it every Friday. We've been doing the War Room for over 40 years, probably since you've been alive, Jack. We've been doing the War Room, which is crazy.
Oh, I'm not 40, so.
No, 20 years, I'm saying. But yes, we've been doing it a long time, and try to put some really cool nuggets, just what's going on sort of behind the scenes. And we put that together every week. But there's a lot of good stuff going on. We have all the podcasts and videos and stuff too. But if you want to really get into the meat and nitty-gritty of it all, go to USCfootball.com and the Peristyle. Yes, there's some crazy people posting on the Peristyle. We love them all. But when things are going poorly, yes, there's some tempers and stuff going on. And when things go well, people get into it. It's fun to see the sort of roller coaster ebbs and flows of the mood of everybody on the Peristyle. And then just to meet people, Jack. We run into people at airports and at games. People yell at us and everything. Just hey, blah blah blah. And it's great to see all those people. And it's funny sometimes if you read the board and oh, that guy's kind of a crazy person, just reading him, and then you meet them in person, it's oh, he's a doctor? What is going on here? People are really passionate about it. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living, they really care. And they might, so it's fun. But if you're not a member, definitely go check it out, especially the holidays coming up. Use the code Peristyle50 and you get half off.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, if you don't have anything else, we can wrap the show up and we'll get on to this week. Big rivalry week for USC after a good win against Nebraska.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We didn't have Connor today. It wasn't just because we had Elijah Paige in, but because there's a USC basketball game tonight too. So we said, all right, we'll give you the night off. You can go cover hoops, undefeated USC men's hoops team and women's, but they're not playing tonight. The men are playing. I believe it's the men tonight, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it'll just be me and Jack. We got some fun ones. We'll do a show on Thursday previewing UCLA, and then the Rose Bowl. I guess we'll probably get done working at like 2 a.m. and Sunday, and then come in here a few hours later and do our normal show.
Yeah, at least it's not the 8 o'clock kickoffs we've had at the Coliseum, but the fact it's at the Rose Bowl means that it's a little bit of a longer drive back here to I guess not Pasadena.
Yes, just getting it out of there is kind of, but it's still, I love it when you get to see the sunset over the San Gabriel Mountains, but it'll be
the sunset will happen 3 hours before kickoff now.
It'll probably be sunsetting as we get there.
Yeah.
I try to get there early and stuff, but hopefully you guys. We're not going to do a meetup because it's, we're not going to go to Pasadena Friday night for a meetup or anything. But it was the last opportunity to get a road win. I know Chris says it doesn't count.
Road, yeah.
But technically it'll be a road Big Ten win. So see if they can get it.
Should be a good one. Always a fun week when USC plays UCLA. But thank you guys so much for tuning in here on Tunnel Vision. You guys are very active in the chat, and we appreciate that. And thank you again to Elijah Paige for joining, House of Victory for setting that up. It was a good time hanging out here on Sunday night. But thank you guys so much for watching. For Ryan Abraham, I'm Jack Smith. We'll see you next time on Tunnel Vision.